What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Hopefully everybody's coming off of a solid Sunday of fantasy football, DFS, sports betting, whatever you got your fingers into. Hopefully it went well for you guys. A lot of really bad injuries. You told me about 10 seconds ago, McCaffrey's out for multiple weeks. They're fearing the worst with Saquon right now. Derrick Henry's been a virtual no-show as they put 12 in the box. I don't even know how they get 12 guys on the field, but he's got 12 in the box on every single play. An interesting year for fantasy football and DFS alike. Falcons can't recover onside kicks, man. Just a lot of craziness to get started this early in the season.
Man, the Falcons. We talked about those teams that just breed winning. The Falcons are the opposite of that team. They need to make wholesale changes. It's not even the fact that they're not talented enough. They don't know how to win. They don't know how to close games. It's embarrassing.
When that happened yesterday and the Cowboys settled for the 48-yard kick, I completely pictured Zerline missing that. I'm like, it's so Falcons to completely screw this up, and it's so Mike McCarthy football to just give up. I couldn't believe, even he wasn't a little bit more aggressive to try to get farther down the field. He's like, a 48-yard field goal is good. They deserved to miss that one. It would have been classic McCarthy.
Yeah, Atlanta deserved them to make that kick, though.
It's true. That game should have ended in a tie because nobody deserved to win.
Agree. What a pathetic performance. That onside kick. What are you doing?
You've played Pop Warner football in high school, right? I think half the women sitting there with their men last night that don't even care about football probably knew you could have recovered that onside kick. Just diving onto it. They can't touch you. You get first dibs at it, and it's going this fast. I feel like my uncoordinated rear end could have recovered that onside kick, or you, or your dog, or something, right?
Yes, I agree. Pathetic. That's one of those losses that's going to be real hard to come back from, I think.
Definitely. So things looking up for your Cowboys fan, at least, because that division is pathetic again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, how bad are the Eagles?
Don't get me started. That division, 8-8 is going to go to the playoffs.
That division, wow, I didn't even realize. I'm just thinking about it since you said that. That division's awful.
Now with the Giants losing their best player, they were already bad to begin with.
Cowboys.
You might have multiple teams with 4 losses, or you might have 3 teams with 5 or less wins.
I think that the Cowboys are clearly the best team in that division. even though they've not looked great and they could easily be 0-2, I think that they're the best team there.
Right? They might actually win 10 games this year. I'll take that back because they get to play the Redskins twice, the Eagles twice, and the Giants twice. Anyways, guys, all right. We're off of that for a little bit. We're here to talk about the showdown tonight. We got the Saints at the Raiders. Again, we'll bring up the overlay promo. Welcome aboard to the new customer I just talked to momentarily ago. Basically, you guys catch us talking about overlay every day on the videos. They sponsor the show. I've been doing a lot of these plays of the day for the overlay things that have been going really nicely. So if you haven't been watching those, I feel like it's a license to print money right now. Let's keep doing it. If you have yet to sign up for overlay, because this is only for new players, unfortunately, if you do that today or anytime this week, if you make a $50 deposit, I'll give you a free 2 weeks, or we will. $100 deposit, we'll give you a free month of the DFS 5-pack. $500 would be a free annual membership. And a $1,000 deposit would be a free lifetime membership. Take a screenshot, tweet it to me, email it to me. We'll get you started. You can double that money by just, following along and winning something. So you can get a free membership here, and it won't cost you anything in the long run.
Can't beat it.
Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Let's talk about our plays of the day right here. Let's start with your classic Keep It Simple, Stupid Occam's Razor play of the day. That's Alvin Kamara. I am, as you know as well as anybody, after his rookie season, I have not been as big of a fan of Alvin Kamara, at least from a DFS perspective. I have not been this excited or thought of him as a must-play like this in quite a long time. No Michael Thomas is a big loss to the Saints team, which means I think Kamara sees double-digit targets tonight. They've had a week to prepare for this, so they're going to game plan with Alvin Kamara. It's only a temporary thing, so you can give him more touches than maybe you want to. Weak defense in the Raiders. I think he's extremely captain eligible because you have pay-down options. This is the must-play of the slate, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny how things change, because I remember last year and even going into this year, both of us were a little bit lower on Kamara. The explosive plays weren't there. Didn't know exactly how much New Orleans is going to prioritize him in their offense. Well, we got a good we found out in a real way last week that, of course, Kamara is a big part of their offense still. Even with Michael Thomas, and last week Kamara was their guy. You expect that only to continue this week against a Raiders team that sucks against the run. We saw what McCaffrey did to them last week. Kamara's not McCaffrey, but he's very good in his own right. The Saints have a very well-rounded team. Expect him to get a ton of touches. The explosiveness looks there. I mean, what's not to like about him here?
I mean, honestly, if you want to fade him in GPPs, I don't think it's insane for one reason. People are dropping like flies in the NFL this year. His teammate, Michael Thomas, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. If you skip him and fade him, it's because you kind of think he could get injured or something like that. We saw my boy Devontae Adams leave yesterday. Like, people are dropping like flies without the preseason. That's my only argument for fading him. I don't ever want to like rely on an injury, but knowing that this dude probably comes at a what, 90, 95% ownership, maybe like 80, 85 in GPPs. If he were to get hurt early, you could go a different route. But my Lord, is that how you really want to play?
No, definitely not. I mean, anytime a guy on a slate like this, or any slate, is approaching like 95% ownership, you know, the gamesmanship theory is always there. But you're right. If you're not playing Kamara here, a big reason is because one of the main reasons to not play him is because you think he might get hurt, and that's just silly.
At that point, play Latavius Murray, right? I mean, that's like, if you do a bunch of lineups, I can get on board with that. I would never do that. I only play one lineup on Showdowns. I think it's a much better cash game format. But if you play a bunch of lineups, I mean, you get a couple Kamara fades in there, you definitely play Latavius Murray or go super heavy on the New Orleans passing game. But I think you're literally playing for an injury, which they're coming to fruition left and right now. But that would never in a million years would I do that in a single lineup.
For sure. Agreed wholeheartedly.
All right, next up, let's talk about Emmanuel Sanders. So Emmanuel Sanders is not Michael Thomas. He ain't even close. But that's because Thomas is arguably the best wide receiver in football, whereas Sanders is still an above-average wide receiver. Maybe not as good as he was a couple of years ago because Father Time, hits on all of us a little bit, but like he's still pretty good in his own right. The Saints offense runs a lot through their number one wide receiver, and while you can't come in and expect him to have 12 catches on 16 targets or anything like that, like Thomas would, in a situation like this, again, it's a bad defense. I want him in my lineup, especially in cash lineups. I assume he'll be relatively chalky. They're still going to have to throw it a little bit.
He's good, too. Like, he's a guy the fantasy industry likes a lot because he's very good. We've seen him be the secondary guy in a lot of his spots. But even, like, with Denver last year, the year before, I mean, this guy was a legit number one wideout for much of his career. He's not just, like, the secondary guy stepping in. He fits really nice as the number two guy in the Saints offense. But for a week or two or three, he can easily be the number one guy. Breeze isn't a great fantasy quarterback anymore, but the one thing he is very accurate. Great for Sanders' play style. He's going to be chalkier, and he deserves it. A lot to like about him as well.
Yeah, if you're getting off of a guy like Sanders, and maybe it's because you think New Orleans rolls and they just don't throw it a lot.
Sure.
I mean, I can get the argument for that. Or maybe you think Jared Cook eats or something like that. But again, in a single lineup, he 100% makes mine.
Like, exactly. And that's what we're talking about here. When you're talking about multi-entering on these showdown slates, basically anything's in play because there's only so many options you can go with. All
right, next up. So the guy for me, my favorite play on the Raiders today is going to be Darren, the Baller Waller. We got Ruggs questionable. We kind of went through that on the members-only lineup construction video. I have absolutely no idea if he's going to play. He seemed to log a little practice time, so my gut tells me he'll play. But he ain't going to be 100%. He might be out there as a decoy. I don't really know. And I mean, the other thing is, too, even if he's out there, does he get Lattimore treatment at all? Because it's not like the Raiders are very deep at wide receiver. So even if he is banged up, I mean, who else are they going to put Lattimore on? This game screams Waller the Baller to me. My hot take for this week on this pick specifically, I think he sees 10-plus targets today in a game where the Raiders are projected to be trailing.
We didn't even say this specifically, but this goes back to what we talk about in NBA a lot. I think there's, if Ruggs is in, I think that there's good cases for Waller either way, if he's in or if he's out. I mean, if he's out, you're just going to have more of a target load going to Waller. But if he's in, he sees more of the defensive coverage. So I think you can make rational cases for both. Waller is their best offensive player behind Josh Jacobs probably. We both like Waller a lot. He's a matchup nightmare for most guys in this league. And in a game that Vegas is going to have to be throwing, I expect him to see a ton of targets, maybe even more than 10.
And I like Josh Jacobs, but this is not a great spot for him. I'm not saying don't play Jacobs because he'll still have his touches, and it's a showdown slate, right? You get 6 spots and only 2 teams going. Obviously, he's in play, but this is not a great spot for Jacobs in this situation. Waller, to me, is a distant first place for of all the Las Vegas Raiders that I want to roster.
It's like on a main slate, we would not really be looking at Jacobs here at all. Sure, on this showdown slate, he's in play because like we've talked about, I mean, there's only one game. he's the best player on the Raiders. So, of course, he's in play. But we see this very eye to eye.
All right, next up. So as far as cap savings go today, the guy that I'm looking at is Taysom Hill. I'm feeling bold with my bold predictions because when we did the showdown on Thursday, I said that Hunt and Chubb would go for over 30 carries and over 200 yards, and they did. So I'm feeling confident right now. I'm sure one of these will bite me in the butt today, and I'll feel a lot less confident when we come talking showdown again on Thursday. But I think Taysom Hill is going to run for 20 yards, receive 20 yards, and rush for 20 yards. Throw for 20 yards. I was supposed to switch one of those. My bad on that. I think they're going to utilize him a decent amount today. Again, without Michael Thomas on this team, they're going to have to get a little bit more creative. I like Kamara. We like Sanders. Jared Cook's all right. But it's not like this team is loaded with great skill position players right now. This is not the Chiefs. This is not, the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Zeke and everything like that. They're going to have to get a little bit more creative. Now, the Raiders stink, so they should be able to move the ball still. But I think Taysom Hill has a nice little role on this game today at only 2,200. He is a red zone guy that they can get creative with. I wouldn't be shocked to see him score today. Plus, DFS is fun. And the game's just more fun when Taysom Hill's on your side. He's an exciting player.
No doubt about that. So I actually think he's not going to be like chalk here. We talked about guys like Kamara and Sanders, and he's not going to be like that. But he is the guy that stands out in the lower pricing tier, especially like you mentioned without Michael Thomas. I mean, at this price point, he's, I don't want to say a lot, but damn near close because like we talked about, when he's on the field, he produces. It's like the NBA comparison, and we talked about this on the member-only video. He's a guy that if he's on the field for a little bit, he'll provide you value at this price point. On the off chance that he gets, much more playing time, he's going to crush value. We see whenever he's out on the field, they run their offense through him, like you mentioned on the earlier video. Occasionally he'll be in there for blocking, but occasionally they want the ball in his hands. I like him a lot here. In a game that the Saints should have no problem moving the ball, I think that his upside's real.
Yeah, they've had a week to prepare for the loss of Michael Thomas, right? This is a lot different than when Thomas leaves in the middle of a game and they're trying to run their game plan without him. Like, they know they don't have Thomas all week long. So guys like Hill easily got a better opportunity to be incorporated, in my opinion.
And they love Hill, like, for good reason. They really like this guy. It's not just us talking him up. Like, the Saints love him.
All right, so we did the members-only video with lineup construction. We talk about who to play where and everything like that. One guy we didn't go over, I wanted to throw in a super deep GPP sleeper just because we've been doing a little bit out on these shows. We hit last week, too, so it's kind of fun to talk about this stuff like this. So this is only for deep GPPs only, and I want to reiterate that. This is a guy primed to get you a 0 tonight. So this is only for GPP players that are desperately looking to be different with one pick. The problem with playing GPP showdowns is, again, when you win them, you split them, like with 100, 200, 300, 400 different people potentially. So if you're trying to get different to get to the top by yourself, you got to be super, super different. Ty Montgomery, former Packer, former Jet. Again, is he a great player? No, but he's not awful. It's possible he could get a couple of touches in the run game or the passing game today as well. He's only 200. This is like if you wanted to captain Kamara and play Waller and Breeze and Derek Carr and everything like that, you might need a super cheap guy. If I was desperately looking to be different with a super cheap guy, I could see him getting a couple of touches today potentially, maybe getting lucky on one of them. But again, I cannot say it enough. This is only for deep, deep GPPs, for people desperately looking to be different, and walk in with this pick prepared for a 0 as a very likely outcome.
I can definitely get on board because I used a couple plays like this last night, and they both worked out for me well. I used Freddie Swain in a tournament lineup last night, and he scored a touchdown. And I used Taylor, the New England backup running back, in one, and he scored a touchdown. So sign me up.
Yeah, I cannot say it enough, man. Be prepared for the 0. You can play this guy. If you're a one lineup guy, this is not a guy on your radar.
Also, like, a couple things. So at $200, you can get a 0 and still cash. Like, sure. As long as your other guys do really good, and you're not rostering him because you think he's going to go off. You're rostering him because he's $200. And I also agree with your point. Like, he's not bad, and this is a game where New Orleans could be up a lot. So if that happens, then all of a sudden I expect Montgomery to get some work.
He flashed a little bit in training camp. It even says it there on the DK write-up, which might be the only reason he gets a couple buyers here and there in some deeper tournaments. But again, it's trying to get lucky in a one-game scenario. There aren't, quote-unquote great cheap plays you can go down to. Everybody's owned. Get crazy.
He'll be like somewhere between like 1% and 5% owned, I think. Not like 0.001% because there's just only a certain amount of guys you can go with.
Exactly. So that's that. Thought I'd throw it in there at the last minute just to kind of talk about some potential getting nuts with the type of picks. Those are fun to talk about on the Showdown sites.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Best of luck this evening. We'll hit you with some baseball in a little bit. Go win that money.
Thanks, guys.